Welcome to BeProvided Conservation Radio, sharing stories and information about the environment, wildlife, and the people who are dedicating their lives to protect the world for future generations. These inspirational stories will take you from the Santa Cruz Mountains to remote areas of Africa.
Hello everyone, this is Marcia Sivek of BeProvided Conservation Radio, recording from the beautiful Santa Cruz Mountains in California. I hope this finds you all safe and healthy. September 29th, the most amazing news came into my email inbox. The headlines: Governor Newsom signs AB 1788. Yay! And if you listen regularly to this podcast, you know that I have had at least 4 interviews with various experts about the banning of the second generation rodenticides or rat poisons. If you recall, AB 1788 will put a moratorium on pest control companies from using second generation rat poisons in the state of California. So during this COVID year, I will take that as the best news yet this year. It is definitely the best news I've heard recently anyways. So after my excitement calmed, I realized I had more questions for our experts. Like, what do we do next? So I called back our friend and co-founder of Raptors Are the Solution, Lisa Owens Viani, to answer my questions and hopefully answer yours. But before we get started, I wanted to reiterate a couple things. That one, raptorsthesolution.org website has a great amount of resources available if you are curious about AB 1788, educating others about rat poison, or how to control wildlife from getting into your home. The second thing is I had to re-record my part of the session. I was a bad podcaster. I didn't have a microphone or headphones when I recorded our telephone conversation. Luckily, Lisa, whose voice is more important at this time to be heard, hers was sounding great. So anyways, my cat chewed on my microphone cord, so that was that. So now I am re-recording my part, and we had a great telephone conversation recently, Lisa and I. So here's what Lisa had to say. So good afternoon, Lisa. So how are you doing during this time? I wanted to ask how all is going, and are you staying healthy?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Just doing all the things we need to do to stay safe. Thank you. How about you?
Thank you. We are doing fine here. I appreciate you asking. So, Lisa, you've been working on the AB 1788 bill now pretty tirelessly now for about 5 years. Is that right?
I think our first try was about 5 years ago, so I would say this is our 5th year, yeah.
Can you give us a background of AB 1788? Some of our listeners may not know exactly what it is and what it does.
So AB 1788 basically places a moratorium on the use of second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides until the California Department of Pesticide Regulation completes its reevaluation of these products. And that process could take years. We just don't know how long their reevaluation will take. The reason they're reevaluating these products is because they know that they're posing great harm to non-target wildlife. And so RAPS, my organization, sued in 2018 to get them to reevaluate both first and second generation anticoagulants because we believe both are a problem, and they agreed to reevaluate second gen and not first gen. So this bill actually ties the moratorium or the ban on the use of second-generation anticoagulants to that reevaluation process, which was supposedly begun in late 2018, but it seemed to be a very slow-moving process. So we're not sure how long that'll take, but the ban goes into effect January 1, 2021, and will remain in effect until they complete that process, and they are also required to come up with measures and mitigation strategies to avoid any further harm to wildlife. They are required to consult with California Fish and Wildlife, which we believe, will help give that process more integrity.
When you just said they, are you referring to pest control companies?
I'm talking about the actual Department of Pesticide Regulation. They're the ones who actually approve these products for use, so that the Department of Pesticide Regulation has to consult with Fish and Wildlife about the ultimate decision in terms of reevaluation.
This was a major team effort, and I wanted to thank you and all your co-sponsors of this bill, and Assemblyman Richard Bloom for getting it written up, and all the senators that voted for it, and all the hardworking volunteers that you have spreading the word. And just, I'm sure there's so many people that we could thank for this. So on behalf of the wildlife and all of us who love wildlife, we really appreciate the work that you have put forward to get this bill, AB 1788, to Governor Gavin Newsom's desk.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a huge battle and a huge victory, and it's not the end of the war, but it's a huge giant step in the right direction. There are some exemptions in the bill, and of course we would have preferred not to have any exemptions, but we had to accept some exemptions in order to get anything passed at all. And in fact, we were so lucky to get a bill passed this year in light of, everything else that's happening in the state with wildfires and COVID and homelessness and all of the other crises we're facing. So the fact that we can take this one important step to help wildlife under all of these, crazy circumstances we're in is really heartening.
It is an amazing feat. So thank you. And I was writing up my notes for this, and I had September 29th down, and that was like a week ago, but it feels like a year ago with this ever-changing news cycle that we're in.
Yeah, it does feel like that.
But I was so excited when I got the news. It actually brought tears to my eyes.
You and me both. It's been a long, we've had different variations of this bill introduced in previous years, and each year we would kind of get the bill, move it farther along, get it through one more committee that we had to get it through. Each year it went, one more step in the right direction, and finally, I think, we just had such a huge groundswell of support for this bill among the citizens of California, and I think the governor heard that. And we also know that he's very passionate about mountain lions. His father was very involved with mountain lions. And, we started off with raptors, birds of prey, falling dead on the street in my neighborhood in Berkeley. And from there, the raptors were kind of the canaries in the anticoagulant coal mine. And from there, we came to realize that these things affecting everything in the food web that will, eat a rodent. So everything from, hawks and owls to foxes and skunks and bobcats, and then up the whole food web, to mountain lions and golden eagles. So I think the governor really understood that, and I think he thought that this bill, was a very common sense solution because it ties the moratorium to his own agency's evaluation process. So that was really how we were able to achieve this amazing victory.
So we know that this will start to be effective January 1st, 2021, now that the bill is signed. And can you tell us, how will this be enforced once it is in place?
Actually, that's an excellent question. And to that end, we have requested, we haven't yet, but we are requesting a meeting through Assemblymember Bloom's office with the Department of Pesticide Regulation to clarify how enforcement will take place. In the past, it's been basically enforcement of, bait boxes and ensuring that they're being used according to the law has fallen to the California agricultural commissioners. So in every county, there's at least one or two or maybe even more agricultural commissioners. And if people see, a violation or misuse of a bait box, that is who to contact. So if you see a bait box that is not labeled with what's inside of it, or a damaged bait box, you want to get a hold of your county ag commissioner. So we are assuming that they will be still responsible for enforcement. We're going to try to clarify that, and I'll be sharing information about that as we go forward.
So just to reiterate what you're saying, that if we see a suspected bait box that we may suspect of something anyways, we can contact our county ag commissioner. And how can we tell when a bait box isn't labeled properly or isn't the proper type of box that should be there?
They're all supposed to be labeled with what's inside. So, right now you might still find a bait box with second generation anticoagulants in it, and as of right now, that's still legal, but after January 1, it won't be with a few, exempted users. So those are things like hospitals and places, I believe breweries were exempted for some crazy reason. So there's a few exemptions, and you can actually read the text of the bill online. But in general, like if you're neighbors using bait boxes, after January 1, they will not be able to include second gen. And so one thing you can do to find out, which poison is which is go to our website. We actually have kind of a guideline to all of the different poisons on there and what their names are, what the chemical names are, and then you can see exactly what it is. Or you can always email us at raptorsaresolution@gmail.com. and we can let you know, whether it's a second gen, a first gen, or some other type of poison. So I imagine that people will still see bait boxes. They will just have something, unfortunately, some other type of poison in them. But again, it was the second gens and the first gens that we know are causing problems for wildlife. So we're hoping not to see, any of the second gen, for most users after January 1. And we're still fighting the battle on first gen. We have an active lawsuit that's still seeking to get first gen reevaluated as well.
Oh, great. I wanted to eventually get into first gen and talk about that a little bit. But before we do, I just have a quick question. This bill, AB 1788, was for California specifically. And I know Raptors Are the Solution is set, you have branches in other parts of the country. So I was wondering if this battle is being fought or will be fought in the near future in some of these other states as well.
We're definitely leading the way on this, like we do on so many things. And we have chapters, RATSUP chapters in Massachusetts, Texas, Washington State, and South Carolina. And so we are definitely hoping to crack down on second gen in other states as well. However, the advantage that California had is that our state Fish and Wildlife has tracked the problems with these products for decades. So we had a lot of data and science to back up our lawsuit and our legislation with, and not all states track the way California does. So we're hoping maybe in a new administration, we're going to look into trying to get funding for other states to track, federal funding going to the state Fish and Wildlife departments to start tracking the way California did. We're hoping that that's something that we might be able to get moving once we hope there's a new administration.
I like that there is some positive forward thinking there is regarding getting the legislation passed in a new administration. So anyways, I wanted to talk first gen a little bit and find out what they do. I believe they cause some kind of neurological or immune disruption. So can you tell us what those are?
Yeah, the first gen are diphacinone, chlorphacinone, and warfarin. Bromadiolone is actually a second gen. The first gens work the same way second gen do. They kill rats and wildlife by causing internal bleeding and bleeding out from injuries that might not normally cause hemorrhaging. So they thin the blood and they cause the animal to bleed to death essentially. And so that's how both first gen and second gen work. The first gen take longer, so the animal has to consume more of it, put more of it up in its body over time. But ultimately, they definitely are responsible for a lot of mortality of wildlife. So they do kill wildlife just like second gens do. They're just not as immediately lethal. The second gen are often marketed as one feeding kills, meaning that it's just one dose to kill a rat or other animal. And so, yeah, the first gen, they work the same way. They have been linked to immune system impacts like horrible mange that we've had such a problem with in bobcats and mountain lions and foxes, coyotes, all of those mammals that eat rodents, scientist Laurel Sirius has found a link between first-gen anticoagulants and also second-gen and immune system impacts that cause diseases like mange.
I may be wrong, but Laurel Sirius' research seemed to be groundbreaking. I believe she was testing blood taken from wild animals like bobcats, that are actually out in the wild.
She took blood samples from actual live animals in the wild and tested them and found a correlation between, pulses of first-gen anticoagulants in the bloodstream and this disease, this ectoparasite mange.
Just recalling, I believe what I heard before, that you are starting a lawsuit against first-generation rat poison?
We have a hearing later this month in Alameda Superior Court. So that's an active lawsuit, and again, a lot of that is based on the data that CDFW has collected about mortality of these animals tied to first gen, as well as on Laurel Sirius's research and other similar research tying first gen anticoagulants to some of these other impacts, these immune system impacts.
So what can we do now, and what steps can we take to keep this moving for the future?
Yeah, after January 1, familiarize yourself with the different poisons. And again, we do have a list on our website, so there are basically 4 different second gens to look for. They all have di in their name. Difecum, bromazolone, diphenacum, and diphethiolone. So there's always di in the word, which seems appropriate to me somehow. But we do have a list on our website, and we have a spreadsheet of all the poisons. So if after January 1 you see bait boxes with these poisons still in them, please let us know, and we can try to help you investigate, whether or not it's an exempted use or not, and who you should contact if it's not for enforcement.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that we will still see some of those ugly black or gray bait boxes around.
Well, in theory, they could also contain traps. But again, if they do, they're supposed to be labeled as such. And that would be the other thing to look for, is just to make sure there's a label, because one of the things the pest control industry constantly basically lies about is to say that these boxes are well maintained, and frankly, they very rarely are. They're often damaged. Other animals try to get into them. A lot of times they're not labeled, so there's a lot of problems with them. And if you see a box that isn't labeled or not labeled properly, then definitely contact your county ag commissioner's office.
Is there anything else you want to talk about or let us know that we should think about as we move forward?
Other than our lawsuit and having to kind of, figure out how we can best oversee enforcement and make sure it's really happening, and how we can try to have a voice in the reevaluation process. Again, we're trying to build up our chapters in other areas. So we have a really active chapter that started now in Seattle, and there's another nonprofit up there that has started tracking raptor deaths. So they're building a lot of good groundwork for that effort in Seattle. If you want to if you want to kind of be on our list for updates as to what we're working on next, you can sign up for our newsletter on our website. And we'll just continue doing our best to educate the public about this problem. We've had a series of billboards this year that have gone up. Sometimes we do public transit ads, but with COVID, we decided to focus on billboards this year. So we've had some in Washington. We've had them in California, in San Luis Obispo, Paso Robles, San Diego, Humboldt County. We have one going up in Seattle next month. So we'll be continuing our public education, our large-scale public education ads, and if you want to, learn more about those or support that work, you can always go to our website and check it out.
I wanted to give a plug that, your website, raptorsarethesolution.org, is very comprehensive, and I have a little success story of a local neighborhood here in Scotts Valley area. Well, it started out fairly sad, but a family was watching a fox pup, a mother and some pups, and one of the pups actually got sick. and they captured it and took it to a rescue center, and it was later found with the necropsy that the pup died, unfortunately, of rat poison. But the success comes is that when we were all talking about this in the Nextdoor community website, it was great because there was a lot of awareness and a lot of questions. And my husband and I donated some yard signs to put up in these neighborhoods. And we realized that other people in the neighborhood were printing pictures and making their own signs from information from your website. So I think that is a great resource.
Thank you for doing that. I mean, that's kind of what it takes is grassroots action like that. I really appreciate whenever people do that, and we try to support people taking grassroots action whenever we can, and we hope that people will use those resources on our website. That's what they're there for. So I'm grateful to you for taking action, and I hope we don't have to see too many more incidents like that to get people to, change the way they're doing pest control.
So I'm going to plug your website again, Lisa. So it's raptorsarethesolution.org. And I just want our listeners to know that besides all these great educational resources, you have many ways that people can contribute, big or small. And you have some beautiful photography and a calendar that people can purchase, as well as some upcoming face masks for a rat's face mask, which would be fun. And you also have a shirt campaign with float with a cool design of some raptors on it. And I believe you have some bumper stickers and some other things. So there are many ways that people can go to your site and donate. So please check out raptorsarethesolution.org.
Thank you so much, Marcia. And we realize that things are tough for people, so we greatly appreciate all the people who have continued to support us during this hard time.
Thank you for listening to Be Provided Conservation Radio. Links and resources to today's topic are in our show notes on iTunes. We appreciate your dedication and interest in protecting our natural world for future generations. If you like what you heard, please get involved by volunteering, donating, and sharing these podcasts with your friends. It also helps us to inform more people if you take a minute to leave a rating or review on iTunes. Have a great day, and thank you for listening to Be Provided Conservation Radio.